Hey guys, Coach Nate here. Today we are talking about marathon training and how to find the right pace for those darn tempo runs. How do you know how fast you should be going? Well, we're gonna get into it today, break those zones down so you can run really well. Now, when we talk about tempo runs, what we're really talking about is the ability to train our lactate threshold. And speaking of, if you haven't caught our part 1 on marathon training, how to find your lactate threshold with this test, go ahead and click on Alcatraz and go ahead and get that video in there. And it gives you a good background, how to find that test before we get into all the tempo stuff today. Of course, if you don't like doing things sequentially and you're a rebel, we'll just keep watching and we'll try to make this make sense for you. So we're really going after two things today. One, we are trying to establish good training zones. And the reason why we want to establish good training zones is because it gets us out of that nasty habit of running the same speed, the same time, every single day. And what happens is when we run the same speed, the same time every single day, our body gets really good at that. But that means that if we change our pace by an eyelash, all of a sudden our body freaks out and we don't know how to handle it. And we're never closer to running any of those faster speeds that we actually want to. So getting ourselves situated and able to run at really easier intensities, and that also means running at those harder intensities. These training zones are exactly what those are for. So they help us behave when we need to, and they help us push when we really need to. Now, the second part of this video that we really want to talk about specifically is the use of tempo training to increase our abilities at the marathon and the half marathon and really any extended running distance. Our tempos, as we go through our zones in a second, is going to be our ability to push out that lactate threshold, that thing that we dove in and discussed on and the part 1 of this video, our ability to be more efficient at that maximal steady state, those higher efforts for longer periods. And the good news is that this is one of the most trainable things we can do. So this tempo training, if done correctly, is super, super effective. So I want to go through these training zones, and they're going to be built around, you know, these guys have training zones too. I'm not sure which ones they're in, but we're going to talk about the training zones that we're in, and we are going to build these numbers based around this lactate threshold test that we did in the previous video. And what we're going to talk about is breaking zones down, training zones down from a zone 1 to a zone 5. Now, when we did that 30-minute test, what we're trying to find is that zone 5 number, right? And that number is something that we could hold well trained for 45 to 60 minutes. So we're thinking if we were to correlate that to a race distance, that's going to be that 10K, you know, plus or minus. When we think about the other zones, we can also think about it a correlate to other race distances. So if I were to step down to zone 4, it's going to be that sub threshold. It's probably something we're going to be able to hold for a half marathon, right? If we step down another zone to zone 3, it's going to be something that we would target for a full marathon. Zone 2, we could say, hey, now we're in the world of ultras, right? We're maybe doing beyond marathon to a 50K plus. And then zone 1 is, you know, me getting coffee in the morning. I don't know, just walking around. It's basically like I'm working, my heart rate's definitely elevated, but it would be that recovery. I'm not racing, I'm not doing anything like that, right? So 1 through 5 zones, I could correlate to race distances. Zone 5 is like that 10K, that's that max steady state, the test we just did. 4 is half marathon, 3 marathon, 2 is the ultra, and then 1 coffee. Now, before you guys all decide to collectively wring my neck by the way I have defined zones, understand that there's actually a lot of definitions of training zones, and that's what makes this kind of a murky subject. So I'm showing you some of the standards that I've used personally and I use with my athletes, and it's actually built around Joe Friel and the Training Bible and the things that he's done with athletes of of all stripes in the endurance world, and we'll click some links below that follow up with just some more in-depth data to help you out there. But that's really what we're going off of. And guys, also understand that the training distances I'm using to correlate here is really just as a target to help you guys out. It's not actually going to be the same. The athlete who can run a marathon in 2 hours is probably going to be doing, or the athlete who can run a marathon in 2 hours is probably going to be doing it in a different zone than an athlete who takes 4 or 5 hours to do that, right? So it doesn't always work perfectly that way, but we try to use this just to get us in the right ballpark, which is what we're going for. Testing 1, 2, 3, tempo, lactate, yay. And I want to give you some good correlates here for, these guys are way up there. Little doggies run around, you can't even see them. We're just gonna start over because, hey, hopefully we're able to help you dial in those training zones today. And if we did, give us a little thumbs up down there. It really helps us out. If you have any comments or questions on this stuff, we're really just scratching the surface here on all the different directions you can tunnel into in the running geek world. Go ahead and drop those questions down below. We'll do our best to answer yours. And of course, subscribe to our channel, guys, because we've got content coming out each and every week on everything from nutrition to hydration, injury prevention, strength training, race-specific workouts, you name it, we got something for you. And if we don't, we will have it for you soon. Speaking of, we got to keep filming, guys, so we'll see you in the next video.